This is the story of Franz Brome and Margarita Brandt, a Catholic boy and a Mormon girl living in Germany in the 1880s. These two met and fell in love, and in spite of their religious differences, decided to marry. In so doing, Margarita, the Mormon girl, had to agree to be married in the Catholic Church, and of course she had to promise to rear her children also as Catholics. In the words of Granddad's mother, Barbette, we call her Nana, she says, "My father refused to even let Mother speak to the Mormon missionaries serving in that town." However, Mother managed to do a few things for the elders, such as preparing a meal and taking it to them once a week, my father not knowing anything about this. Mother did not attend LDS services, but Father attended the Catholic Church every Sunday. I was born about a year and a half after they were married, and of course I was baptized and christened into the Catholic Church. My godmother was my mother's sister, Barbara, for whom I was named. Since Mother was excommunicated from the Mormon Church by being married in the Catholic Church, she did not attend any church. Dad always attended the Catholic Church. However, unknown to my mother, when she would leave home, Dad would secretly open her Mormon books, her Mormon scriptures, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, the Pearl of Great Price, and at first originally from curiosity, but then out of sincere desire to know more, he began to read and study and began to that the things he was reading were true. One Sunday morning, as he was preparing to go to church, he said to Mother, "Let's go to church." Mother immediately bristled and said, "You know I won't go to church with you." But Father said, "No, I mean, let's go to your church." Mother said if Dad had struck her, she would not have been more shocked. She happily prepared to get ready, and they attended the meeting together. And from that point on, they always made the elders feel welcome in their home. The more Father heard of the gospel, the more he studied, the more he loved it. And when I was 4 years old, my parents were baptized, Mother being rebaptized and Father being baptized. Because Mormons were so unaccepted in their town, they had to be baptized in the middle of the night in a stream of water or a pond to avoid persecution. They had to leave me home alone, sleeping, and were concerned about that. But Father said as they left, "If she's all right when we return, I'll know this is a sign from God that what we're doing is right." They said when they returned from the baptismal service that I had not moved at all from the spot that I was sleeping in. My dad's baptism brought great sorrow to him because his mother said that she never wanted to see him again. In fact, as far as she was concerned, she would rather see him in his grave than to be a Mormon. This was very hard for Father, for he loved his mother dearly. But by this time, his love for the gospel was so strong that it helped him through this sorrow. 2 years after baptism, my father and mother and I immigrated to America. My father had no correspondence whatsoever after that with any of his 6 sisters or 6 brothers and 1 sister. After arriving in America, Mother and Father and I settled in a little mining town of Eureka, Utah, south of Provo by about 30-40 minutes. My father worked from then on underground in the mines of Eureka. It was a dusty, dirty, small little mining town, and when they first arrived there and saw the conditions, thinking of their beautiful little cottage surrounded by a green, lush garden in Germany that they had left, Father said, if it weren't for the gospel of Jesus Christ and my love for it, we would have turned right around and gone back to Germany. I must tell a story now that illustrates the great faith that these two people had. When Grandfather Brome was working underground in the mines in Eureka, Utah one day, he was pushing a cart along a railroad track. The cart was heavy and full of coal, and as he was pushing it along the track, he heard a voice saying, "Franz, stop." But continuing to push, thinking he was just hearing something because no one was there, he continued to push, and again he heard the voice say, "Franz, stop." He tried to stop the cart, but the momentum was going too much, and so the cart continued to go, but Franz stepped back, letting the cart go. Within a very short while, the earth gave way underneath the cart, and the cart went crumbling under crumbled earth, going into a large hole. Grandfather Brome was safe because he had listened to the voice, which he knew was the Holy Ghost letting him know of the danger that was before him. At the same time that this was happening, this was in the night, Grandmother Brome was asleep in her bed, and she was awakened suddenly by hearing the voice of Franz. They later discovered that these two events happened concurrently at the same time, and Nana says she believes that this illustrates the close bond and love that these two shared and the closeness that they had with the Lord. Granddad loved his grandmother and Grandfather Brome. He loved their visits when they would come to Montana, where he lived as a boy with his family. He says how when he would be naughty, if you can imagine Granddad ever being naughty, but as a little boy, when he would do something mischievous, Nana would say, "Bobby, you go outside and you pick a switch off the tree and come in, and it's time for a switching." But he knew he could depend on Grandmother Brome to intervene and say, "Oh, now, Bet, don't give Bobby a switch. He's a good boy." Nana tells of the time when he was very little, and it was time for Grandma and Grandpa Brome to leave and return to their home in Utah. And they left, and little Bobby went into the room where his little brother Herman was, and crying and sobbing, saying, "Oh, baby Herman and Grandpa have left, and they aren't coming no more." He loved it when they were around. Aunt Maureen remembers the scene of Grandpa Brome in his aged years sitting by the radio in their home in Montana, and Saturday nights the Lucky Strike parade would be on the radio with the cigarette commercials for Lucky Strike, and she recalls Grandpa Brome sitting there by the radio listening to those cigarettes commercials, and he'd pound his cane on the floor saying, "Cigarettes, cigarettes, bad cigarettes." Grandma and Grandpa Brome were sweet and dear people who were faithful and loving members of the family and of their church all the days of their life.